The team that should be the most aggressive in pursuing DK Metcalf, it's the Green Bay Packers. What's going on? It's Ryan Hickey with you right here on the Infinity Sports Network. A happy Thursday to you. Thank you for tuning us in right here onto the show. As you just heard, right, the big news that we're talking about here on this show, big news coming out of Wednesday, was DK Metcalf getting on the trade block, requesting a trade away from Seattle. The Seahawks, at least reportedly obliging, so they will now entertain trade offers for the Pro Bowl wide receiver out of Ole Miss. So now DK Metcalf is available for teams to go get. I think, and his market is going to be robust. There's a lot of teams that should be interested in the business of DK Metcalf. But the team to me that makes the most sense, that should be the most aggressive, is the Packers, because this is a team that has a million wide receivers, but don't have a true number one guy. They're a playoff caliber team. And I think on top of DK coming in, establishing himself as that number one guy and bringing some juice to that offense, the biggest thing he would bring is help to Jordan Love. Because Jordan Love regressed last year. Right? He was good second half of 2023, and we never kind of saw that Jordan Love again in 2024. I know injuries had a little bit of a part to that, especially early on getting hurt in that opening game and re-getting hurt or middle of the year. So like he had some injuries that were, I think, maybe preventing him from being as good in 2024 as he was in 2023, but it went beyond the injuries. This was a guy whose confidence was shaken, whose decision-making was shaky as well. Like he just did not look comfortable and confident. And I think a part of that, a reason for that was he didn't have a true receiver out there he trusted. Every week, it kind of felt like someone else was stepping up or being the featured guy, but there was no cohesion. There was no true trust in the guys he was throwing the ball to. And so now if you can bring DK Metcalf in, leave no doubt about who the number one receiver is, I think we're looking at Jordan Love gaining that confidence back, gaining that trust back, and going back to the 2023 second half form we saw of Love that took this team to the playoffs and won a playoff game. You know, there's a track record now in the NFL in recent years of established receivers coming in and helping to expedite the development of young quarterbacks. Look at A.J. Brown. Going to Philly a few years ago, he made Jalen Hurts a different quarterback. Hurts' game from 2021 to 2022 and beyond has been night and day. He is a much more established passer because of the presence of one of the best receivers in the league in A.J. Brown. And the same thing happened in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs. He goes to the Bills in 2020. All of a sudden, Josh Allen is an MVP candidate. He's the model of consistency. Diggs' presence really helped Josh Allen, I think, develop into the quarterback that he became. I think DK can have that same impact in Green Bay. Go there, be a stabilizing force. He's a consistent producer. And really, again, bring the best out of Jordan Love. I think it's the perfect situation for DK to go to a playoff contender. I think it's the perfect situation for the Packers to kind of make an aggressive move. I know they don't make a lot of aggressive moves. It's not in their nature. This, though, should be one where they go against the grain of how they usually operate. This is a guy that's absolutely worth going after. I think the Packers should be the most aggressive in pursuing him. The thing, though, for them that's going to be tough is there's going to be a lot of competition. A lot of teams interested in bringing DK to their team. I think DK Metcalf, when you look at this offseason, when it comes to free agency, when it comes to guys that could possibly be traded, I think DK Metcalf is the most impactful player that will change teams this offseason. I said that for a few reasons. Number one, his production. The guy consistently produces 900 plus yards in each of his 6 years in the NFL. He's a walking mismatch. He's huge. He's fast. He's strong. You can't really cover him with one guy. Like, he is perfect, a perfect fit in any offense. Versatile. Checks every box you want from a receiver. So he brings the production. He also brings you the health. The guy's a model of consistency. He's out of the field every single game. In 6 years, he's missed 3 games. Love that. He's only 27 years old, so he's still right there in the peak prime of his career. And I think another reason why he's, to me, going to be the most impactful player move this offseason is also has to do with what you're giving up to get him. The price is not going to be high. You're not mortgaging the farm to bring DK to your team. Early reports are all it's going to take to get DK Metcalf on your team is a third-round pick. So you're getting a really talented receiver whose production has been consistently great every single year of his career, who's been healthy, who now all it takes is a third-round pick to bring him in. Now, you're going to have to pay him as well. He's going to ask for and need an extension. That's the reason why the Seahawks are going to trade him. He's on the last year of his deal. He's getting $24 million a year. But if you pay him, and let's say you give him an extension, I think it's fair to say he's going to get about $30 million. You know, a 4-year, $120 million deal would average out to about $30 million a year. I would say that's fair to assume that's what DK gets from whenever team trades for him. Pretty good deal. That to me is a pretty good deal for a receiver of his caliber, his age, his production. And I think he could be a guy that comes in and outperforms his contract immediately. Like I mentioned A.J. Brown just before, right? Coming in and helping out Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown also was he was a really talented receiver in Tennessee and put up some solid numbers. But then you saw him go to Philly, fit in with that offense, and those playmakers read him, and his career just took off. Now he's a top 5 receiver in the league. Now also a Super Bowl champion. I think we could see the same thing from DK Metcalf, where he's not a top 5 receiver, I would say. He's still a really good receiver, but if he goes to a new team in the right system, all of a sudden, boom, his career goes to another level. So I think even though you're going to be paying, DK a pretty penny here, near top dollar, I think he could be a guy that has his game go to the next level right away. And you're already feeling, we got a good bargain on this deal. We got a pretty good deal here with DK coming to town. So when you add that all up, that to me is why I call DK Metcalf the most impactful player that will move this offseason. Because I think the impact he brings in terms of production, but also the impact he brings in terms of allowing you to still save valuable assets is important. Like Myles Garrett is a better player than DK Metcalf. Myles Garrett will be traded. I don't care what Andrew Berry says. I don't care what anyone from the Browns say. It's all leverage. Garrett's getting traded. And while Garrett plays a premier position of edge rusher, the reality is, right, you're going to have to give up a huge draft haul. Bare minimum, at least 1 first-round pick, probably either a first and a second. I could even see 2 1s having to be given up to get Myles Garrett on your team. So you're giving up some premium draft capital. And, by the way, having to pay him, with the contract Max Crosby just got at $35.5 million a year, becoming now the highest non-quarterback to get paid in NFL history. I'm sure that's what Myles Garrett's chasing. So then if you want to give him a contract extension, it's going to have to be for probably $36 million a year. So you're giving him a mega extension, giving up a lot of premium draft capital as well to bring him in. He's a great player, but also it does become more difficult to build up the team around him because you're giving up so much draft capital-wise and paying him so much salary-wise. It's less of an impact here for DK, so you could still have a first-round pick to still add to your team. You still have some salary cap space to make your team better. T. Higgins is a receiver that I think, and we talked about earlier in the show, that I think the Bengals should trade. They tagged him right this week. That's a guy I think it's in their best interest to move off of, open up some cap space, and pay other players on their team. If T. Higgins is on the trade block, I think DK's a better player. I think he's a better value in part because he's healthier. T is good, right? He's good. But he's also been a guy that's been banged up. He's not had a full season played since his rookie year. That's a little bit concerning if you're going to give up draft capital and have to pay T. Higgins. And we just saw Deebo Samuel get traded over the weekend to the Commanders. I think DK's a much better receiver than Deebo. Hell, forget receiver for a second. Look at the quarterbacks. Right? The most impactful position in sports. Even with that being the case, I think DK's impact will be felt greater than the impact of any of these free agent quarterbacks. Darnold, Russ, Rodgers, Fields, Kirk Cousins, whenever he gets cut. Like, these guys are not going to teams right now that need quarterbacks and taking them to the playoffs. Turning their franchise around. Taking them to the Super Bowl. I think their impact will be minimal. They're just not very good anymore for most of them. So you look around at the players that are available in free agency, the players that are on the trade block. I don't see how anyone could say when you take into account production, health, and also the price it's going to get them and the price it's going to get to keep them happy and extend them, there's not a player right now that I see changing teams this offseason that will be more impactful than DK Metcalf. Which is why his market is going to be robust and strong. But when it comes down to it, I think if you're the Packers, that's a guy you need to get on your team. Do whatever it takes to land DK Metcalf. Because I think he'll be a difference maker for not only your offense, but for your quarterback. You know, Jordan Love, he's been in the NFL a while, right? He's only now a 2-year starter going on year number 3. We still have not seen a lot. He was a project coming out of Utah State. I know they paid him, but it's not a guarantee Love hits and becomes the next franchise quarterback of the Packers. Follows in the line of Favre and Rodgers. How you get closer to that happening, that guarantee of being the next franchise guy, is by getting a reliable receiver in the building that Love can trust. DK to me is that guy. So while the competition is going to be stiff, a lot of teams are going to be interested. The team that needs DK the most, I think it's the Packers.